Yes, folks, it's Thursday. It's 4 p.m. Central. I'm Fred McMurray, which means this must be...
Pillars of franchising. Pillars of franchising.
And a big thanks to the Greg Markel's Audio Lab for our awesome Pillars of Franchising theme song, the one that once it's in your head, you will never, ever, ever forget it. Hey, Kristin?
True statement.
Hey, Ray?
Yes.
True statement. True statement.
Because there's so many lyrics in it, so many words,
Again and again, they keep coming.
Pillars. Yeah, I love that.
And of course, you do an excellent job on your guitar.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
No one sees
Impressive.
that, but I appreciate that. You know, it's
If you had hair, I'd tell you to do the hairband thing, but we know that's not quite possible.
yeah. If I had hair, we wouldn't.
You got to do that. What do they call that when they move?
Head banging? Head banging? Is that what it is?
Head banging, yeah.
Yeah.
If I had hair, co-hosts wouldn't be wearing hats, now would they?
Is that why we have to wear these? Oh, God.
Yeah, well,
okay, at
if
least
I'm
now
not
I know.
If I'm not wearing a hat, people get blinded by the lack of hair there.
The glare.
Yeah.
The glare, yes.
Shout
Excellent.
out to our past guest, Ron. I got my Bud's Place hat, so,
Yep.
you know.
Nice.
Well, we're supposed to get ours. When are we supposed to get ours?
I don't know if Ron's listening. He better know we're waiting.
Yeah.
Yep, I'd say, Ron.
So how about I get us
things in.
started today, Fred?
Go for it.
Today, we'd like to introduce a very special guest. His name is John Francis, otherwise known in the business as Johnny Franchise. And we'd like to welcome you, Johnny. I realize that we just skipped past weather, so as everyone is
Yeah.
anxiously awaiting to hear your bio,
Yeah.
we're going to start with Fred, who's shaking his head at me right now, and he can begin the weather.
Well, as I've told people all day that I've been talking to them on Zoom, yes, if you're sitting in front of me and you look to your left, that is exactly the view you would see in the background. Even to the point where the clouds, it's a beautiful blue sunny day. Had lunch sitting outside, wearing just a hoodie, lows, upper 60s.
Okay, let's
Breeze.
move past you. No one cares.
Okay.
Hey.
Remember,
Nice.
we're family friendly, so you can't flip me off.
No sign language needed.
No.
Ray, how about you?
I had a wonderful day today. 65 degrees. Took a 12-mile bicycle, and really enjoyed it. And I think it's supposed to be almost as warm. I think in the high 50s tomorrow. So I'll probably take another bike ride tomorrow because they're not going to have much of a chance to do that with the weather. It gets a little chilly riding a bicycle at 25 miles an hour.
You know, I think I'm feeling a cold coming on. I might have to call in sick tomorrow.
Who are you going to call?
Myself.
Yeah, right. The boss.
That's the beauty of not having to work for anyone else. When you have to take a sick day, you just call yourself.
Yeah,
So
so
what-
sometimes I tell my employees, be careful, I'm going to quit, and then you're in trouble.
That's right. That's right. Then you'll be sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, so I think that's probably why you took a nap in our last conference call, Ray, after you took that big long bike ride. Now that you disclose that, now I know why you
Yeah.
took a
Now
nap.
everybody knows.
Yeah.
all of Molly knows that I was sleeping during the conference call.
Well, we know they're all
Now
too
all
busy
of-
working to listen right now.
Anyway,
The whole
I am located
franchising
in
word.
Aurora, Illinois, about 40 miles west of Chicago. Kristin is pretty close by.
Yep.
We share the same weather. So now it's time to ask John Franchise.
Time out.
Johnny Franchise,
I should say that Johnny Franchise.
Yeah,
how you doing?
Where you at?
Time out. one thing I need you to realize, Ray, now the whole franchising world knows that you fell asleep in the last meeting.
Yeah.
Just
Okay, but I didn't say what the call was. See, you guys tipped that
Yeah.
hand. I just said on the last call, and then Ray goes, now all of Molly Maid knows. I'm like, I didn't say that. I
There you
was
go.
very, very careful.
Yeah.
So Johnny franchise, I laughed
Yes.
because I feel like I'm in The Godfather.
Well, it's got a ring to it, that's for sure. Johnny
It does, it
franchise.
does.
Yeah.
It kind of suits me, I guess, in a lot of levels. I guess I'm not sure. I'm not Italian or anything, but growing up, I was little Johnny, right? I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so
Oh, okay.
everybody called me Johnny Francis. That's
Mhm.
my given name is just John Francis, but my wife, my friends, everybody who really knows me well calls me Johnny. And so I got that nickname from a friend of mine here in Minneapolis at a conference. It was one of these franchise networking things, right? And the guy sees me, he's a big guy like me, and he sees me every time, and he says, Johnny franchise, because we're, that's where we are, that's what we're doing. And
Yep.
there were about a dozen people around who heard that, and everyone had a nice laugh, and it was great. It just kind of stuck. So those people started calling me Johnny Franchise all weekend for that conference. And
That's awesome.
that's how people would introduce me as, oh, you don't know Johnny Franchise. What? And so, yeah, I think for a while, honestly, I was a little that's not serious. It's not professional. It's kind of, is it corny or dumb? And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and they said, well, it's only stupid if you're stupid. And
There you go.
I said, well, all right, then I'll do my best. And so I embraced it a couple of years ago, and finally got the URL or whatever for the website, and then you get the email and everything else. And so, yeah, it's memorable, and it's who I am. It's what I do. I don't think anyone else will use that. One of my buddies says, why don't you trademark that? I'm like, well, why?
Because it's a brand. You're a
who would
brand.
ever use it? Yeah, well, but then
Yeah.
that's the flip side as well. Maybe you create something that's useful and somebody else wants to do it too,
Yeah. The world according to Johnny franchise.
Yeah, right. I'll
Let's-
put my lawyer on it,
Yeah. So let's talk about you. So you have been in franchising your whole life.
I really
Right?
have. I was born into a franchise company. My mom and dad were franchisors in the early 60s, before I was alive. Right? I was born in the later 60s, but my dad was a barber, cut hair, and he franchised barbershops without even really knowing what he was doing. It was a way to grow. Someone's money to franchise. Long story short, it worked, right? He struggled, but they did it. He's a great entrepreneur. He did a great job, worked really, really, really hard. And they were very early into the franchising. So my parents are actually in the IFA Hall of Fame for franchise. Yeah. As husband and wife together, which is kind of unusual,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so I have you starting with hair salons is what we call them now. Back then, that particular brand was the Barber, right? I guess I say we call them. That's not true. Us
No,
girls
it's
call
true.
them.
The industry's grown up, and back when they started, there were barbershops for men and beauty salons for women, and that was
Yes.
you really didn't cross over too much. And so things changed, and my dad and our concepts helped change a lot of that. Actually, there was quite a bit of change that came. He changed the industry. My dad, he's actually in the Barber Hall of Fame, if you can believe that. There's such a thing, and he created opportunity for barbers to become business owners.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Really didn't exist, and franchising was the vehicle that created that opportunity. And so I grew up thinking everybody owned their own business, and everybody worked for themselves, and everybody had 2 or 3 businesses, and I grew up in the wake of this entrepreneur who was into real estate and retail and franchising and barbershops and you name it. He was interested in it, and it was a lot of fun to grow up in that environment. And being the youngest of five, by the time I was old enough, things were already going. I mean, it's like I didn't live through the kind of the hard part that my older siblings did, right? It was a little different for me. So,
it shows here
a lot going on.
That wound up being a 1,000+ unit, and then the Barbers became Regis. Now I remember Regis back in the day. So, and then we show that you also are a franchisee, have been a franchisor, have been an investor, and board members for several different franchises, and not just hair salons, barbers, but t-shirts and Postnet, and my boy's favorite is Sports Clips. So that's one of our favorites in this house anyway.
Good brand, great people.
Yeah. So we've got a really great person for all of you to hear from today. Again, this is Johnny Franchise from over in the Twin Cities. So Ray, would you like to get us started today?
Oh, sure. One of the things that came to mind when I think of barbers, I think of bartenders. they
know everything. They know everybody.
Story.
They know everything. If you want to know what's going on in a town, my dad, a quick story. He'd say, if you're going to a new town and you don't know anybody, you really don't know anything. He said, go to the barber shop.
That's right.
Talk to the barber. Ask him who's who, what's what, where to go, where not to go. He'll know what you need. He's got everything. And
that's so true.
So true.
It really is. I've been to the same barber for I guess the last 40 years.
Wow, that's great.
And she knows my entire life, and my kids, how's so and so doing? Does she have her baby yet? And all this. So for 30 minutes we talk, and
you'd be surprised what people will tell their hairdresser. It's an interesting component of the service business, that type of personal service.
It is.
In that kind of an environment where they're not underwater or something, they can, some people don't want to talk at all. Like you kind of figure that out. And other people, they want to hear what's happening. And then other people want to, they want to brag about their life or their kids, or other people want to cry about what's wrong and miserable. You'd be surprised. A lot of psychiatric help, I think, comes out of the salon.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
People help each other. It's a beautiful thing, really. But
it is. It is.
The one thing I think that makes this business as a franchise interesting is that I had a neighbor who, she wasn't in hair. That's not what she did, right? And I think a lot of us recognize that one of the biggest skill sets or talents of someone who does hair is like artistry, right? They really are like an artist, even though they're trained. I mean, it's really something that they're
it's a
kind
skill.
of born
You
with.
got to be good at it.
Yeah. But not all of them are business people. And so when you take somebody with a passion and with a skill like that, or a talent, what do you think makes franchising for them so successful?
Well, that's a good question. I can think of a number of different things. In the salon industry, I guess on the face of it is just the size and scale of the industry. I mean, everybody gets haircuts all the time, except maybe guys like Fred. No offense, Fred, but right? That most people it's one of those commodity services that you're never going to buy a haircut on Amazon. You might make a reservation or something online. Now it's all on the app, but you still got to go somewhere to get a haircut, or someone's got to do it for you. Even in the COVID thing, we had some fun with the We Fix self, do-it-yourself haircuts, because you don't want to.
Boy, could I tell you stories about those do-it-yourself haircuts.
Yeah. So anyway, what makes it a good franchise is there's so much of it, right? I mean, hair salons are, ubiquitous, right? They're everywhere, and there's lots of room. There's always going to be room for all kinds of, salons, and it's a big industry, lots of different categories, different prices, different styles. Different in a lot of ways, really, a lot of different things. And it's a huge industry. So that, I guess, number one. Number two, in the salon business, people are looking for certain things. When they go, you can segment the market relatively clearly, primarily by price, right? People, They want full service, full, and on a special kind of environment, they're going to pay, let's say $30 or more.
Mhm.
And you want people who are maybe based a little more on convenience and, they're more simple needs. They don't need, extra services and all the, they'll pay something maybe 30 and less. So, and then you can sub-segment within, there's all kinds of
Oh, sure.
ways. So it's so big. And once you segment in a franchise, the ones that I'm thinking of that are going strong right now, they have picked a lane, if you will, and they stick to it. And
Mhm.
that's all they're going to do. And they're good at it. And because they don't get distracted and try to change or modify their model, right? Of course, they innovate, they get better systems, better technology, better things change, but haircutting is haircutting. There's not that many different ways to do it. You can overcomplicate the model or so a lot of the successful franchise brands, I guess is what I'm getting to, they have simplified the operational component. They've simplified the management component. It's a lot of people, a lot of talent. Labor is your biggest expense. So scheduling and efficiencies and that becomes real important. And then the marketing and promotion and pricing and their strategy around services and combinations and bundles and competitiveness, and all the rest of it. So
Sure.
they streamline the complex components to build a system that really works. Once in a salon business, once you get a good team of stylists and hairdressers, who are really good and fun and have service, it's you go in to get a haircut, that given, right? But how you feel about it is what really matters. You can get an excellent haircut and pay too much and feel terrible, right? Or you can get a great haircut at a great price and feel great about it, right?
Mhm.
So it's the environment and the service and kind of meeting the customers' expectations. And so once you get a good team and you get a good location, because it's pretty convenient, generally people don't want to search for a salon, they want to go there. And then it's customer service. Keep them happy. And as an operator, I never cut hair, but I owned a lot of salons. And I could manage a salon, and I knew my numbers. I knew what I was trying to do, and really how to manage the manager in that industry is so critical. That's a real important person,
Right.
at the unit level. But then there's ways to scale and structure, and you get a regional director and a district manager, and you can scale. And it's
But
an
all of
entirely
those,
scalable model.
all of the steps to get you there,
Mhm.
if I'm, understanding all of this properly, because it's a lot of information, is that's what the franchise or
That's right.
provides. So somebody who has the
That's right.
basic understanding, but maybe not the business knowledge,
That's
and they
right.
really want it to be bigger, a franchise is a great solution because they define and outline these processes for you, correct?
Well, yeah, they give you the guidelines, they give you the programs. Of course, the training and the systems and technology is a wonderful thing these days. Really can do a lot. With a franchise brand, of course, they give it to you, but you got to use it as a franchisee. And
Right.
the biggest challenge a lot of times is franchisees come along and think, well, I've got my own experience, or I've got better ideas, or, whatever that might be. And I usually say, stop yourself, right? Because you bought a franchise to follow a franchise. You really need to implement and do not experiment, especially in the beginning, when it's early stage in the first 6 months or whatever. You got a lot to learn. You got a lot to figure it out and work really hard. Don't change a thing, because you may not know or understand why things are the way they are, but chances are there's a good reason behind it that may not be obvious. It
Right
might have
now.
been from a mistake that we made 10 years ago, and we fixed it because we don't do it that way anymore, and things of that nature. People, it's just people, right? And entrepreneurs, and God bless them, they want to do the right thing. And so it really starts with the front end conversation of what is franchising. And for a guy who's a true wild entrepreneur, he probably should not be a franchisee. Maybe he should be a franchisor. That's questionable, but franchisee, you want them to have the enthusiasm and the ambition and the resources, time and money, but they really got to have passion for the brand and the business they bought. And you want them to own it like it's theirs, because it is, but you don't want them to have to worry about or spend time and energy trying to fix anything, right? Just execute. And, we'll work together to make it better. right? A good brand collaborates
Mhm.
continuously and has innovation, and change is inevitable. So
Yep.
it's going to change, but don't make it change for your store. You know, when you start experimenting, you're deviating yourself from profitability. It's usually the bottom line.
I think Fred has that glassy-eyed
Okay.
look like I need to pay the electric bill, so maybe we should break for a commercial at this time.
Ray, how well you know things. So much that you do. So before we go into our commercials, want to give a
It was
shout
the
out.
bouncing.
Yeah, well, what can I say? I'm energetic on screen from what I'm told. Want to give a shout out to FeedSpot for listing us as one of the top 20 franchise podcasts you must follow in 2020. And Ray, what number were we? Yes, my friend, number one.
Congratulations.
We love this. And now a word from a sponsor.
Hey, franchise owners, how's your local marketing? Do you feel like you could use some help keeping up with your social media posts and comments and reviews? Do you wonder if you could be doing more to attract local customers? Are you able to identify new move-ins to your local area? At Westvyne, we help franchisees like you reach more local customers through digital marketing. With daily monitoring, creative content, and ad placement, and customer data intelligence, we'll get your business in front of the people who want your products or services. We also work with franchisors who need an agency to handle the digital marketing for all of their locations. If you're ready to reach more local customers, give us a call at 805-265-5440 or visit us at westvyne.com. That's 805-265-5440 or westvyne with a y.com.
Thanks, Michelle. And we're back. Ray, I believe you had a question before we went off into commercial land.
I do. So I was just wondering, I went into my business because it was what I, at the time, considered kind of low tech, because I was in high tech most of my career. So what is new in hair cutting technologically?
Yeah, good question. Not the answer is not much, right? I mean, hair has been cut the same way for 5,000 years, right? Sharp instrument, right? They cut hair the same way forever. Really, the new innovations in the technical side, as far as I understand. Now, I'm not a technical person in the industry, but I try to pay attention to what's going on out there. Primarily, the clipper technology, right? Because a lot of people have much shorter hair, and that's obvious. So there's some new types of clippers, new styles that are a little easier, a little faster, a little lighter. I mean, technology is always making things better. And then I would also say on the product side, beauty products, the paste, the product you put in a tube or a can or a jar or whatever. There's a lot of interesting products that do some pretty interesting things. Colors, textures, I would call decorations, right? Kind of seasonal stuff. I mean, there's quite a bit of stuff you can do with your hair these days. My personal style is pretty much like anyone kind of, I got a hairstyle, I guess it's working for me. I just leave it alone for about 50 years, And,
well, that's what I've done.
Most people stick with their
guys.
style.
Yeah, a lot of men do, right?
I mean, especially men, no doubt about it. And now people are coloring hair. I mean, you see that, and thankfully that's gotten a lot better and safer, actually.
Yes.
Chemicals and stuff were really terrible stuff in the old days, but yeah, I don't know. There's really nothing dramatic. Making it more convenient, making it more consistent, I guess is I don't know if that's an innovation.
You mentioned tech though, John, and I think the tech that you were talking about was really more in the online scheduling and record keeping. Like I know when I go into Sports Clips, you know, my son's always grinning from ear to ear because he knows that they're going to say, "Oh, do you want the MVP again?"
Oh,
And
let
I'm
them have
going,
it. Yeah, it's
I'm
the
going,
best. Yeah.
damn, that's a $25 haircut
Oh,
for my
it's worth it.
14-year-old. But
I
he's
know
14. He doesn't need a neck massage at 14.
he wants to feel like an MVP. I mean, it's a beautiful, the towel, the hot towel. I mean, it's really, I think it's well worth
The
it.
neck massage. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I get it. And I would support a gentleman who owns his own money or, you know,
Yeah.
or earns his own money
Well,
to do it.
Make the
But-
kid earn it. He'll get it. I think the tech really is what I would say does two things. It's client facing, you know, the public, the website, the app, the scheduling, they think their thing is online check-in, right? Nobody wants to wait
Right.
for a haircut, right? Nobody wants to wait for anything these days. So making that accurate and convenient can be a real challenge. Fred, what is that? And
That's how he gets
New
his haircuts.
technology.
that's how you cut your hair, yeah. Oh boy.
And here I thought you used the lawnmower.
No.
The other tech really helps improve the ability to monitor and manage the business, right? There's
Right.
so many data points you can pick up through a point of sale in a hair salon because of timing and service time and staff and logging in and logging out and all the activity. You know, you can measure the business pretty quickly because there isn't that much to it. It's, you know, I mean, a lot of inventory in some cases. You know, it has its complexities, of course, but so the technology really helps on those two primarily, you know, customers and customer interaction, and then marketing, of course, related to all that. But the operational side, it's more for performance management. And once you get a salon dialed in, once you really have a great team that is excited and people like it there, and people know that, they start coming back and. You know, and you get that efficiency curve where they're busy, but not too busy, and they're making great money because there's a great flow of customers, and that's kind of a sweet spot, you know, in really any business. But
Sure.
in a salon business, you can kind of see when it's coming or not, and you try to identify what variables you can change to get there, right? And once you're there, keep it there and balance the growth, right? You want to grow too fast, you want to grow too slow. And you don't want to hurt your people, of course. They're your number one, you know, asset is your staff. So you got to take care of your staff and keep them, you know, aligned, I guess, towards success.
Do you find that salons are one of those investments that you need to have multi-unit, or is one really enough to get you? I know everybody has a different definition of what's comfortable or what they're after.
Well, I can answer your question. It's been a long time since I sold a salon franchise, right? I haven't sold this franchise, and you know, so I'm not in principle. I think one is enough if you get a good one and you manage it well. I mean, what you want are successful outcomes, right? I don't care how many you have, if you own one or 50, you know, or more. But one, if you're good at one. Going to two is relatively easy, right? Because if you've got good people, again, you just duplicate and maybe spread them around. So you can kind of pick a few out of here and move them to the next one, and that seeds the culture and the motivation. You kind of carry that from one to the next. So once you get to three, now you're really busy, right, as an owner. And it's usually where you start to promote what I would call a regional manager or a district manager. You want a manager of the managers.
Yeah.
And they can usually manage 3 to 5, right? You go to 4 and 5, and now your district manager is really busy and you're really busy, right? You're both busy again. So if you go to 6, you probably hire another district person and go down to 3 each, right? And you scale, then you build 4 or 5, you know, you kind of pack them, if you will, in between, you know, 3 to 6 units per district manager, per owner. So, I mean, every business is different, but, you know, some of the more complicated operations, that's harder to do, obviously. The bigger volume locations are harder to manage because you got a lot more to pay attention, a lot of cash in this business, right? It can be risky. And the stylists and the staff, you know, it's a lot to manage. There's a lot of people and a lot of factors and training and compliance and licensing. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things to manage in a successful, busy salon. So It's not easy. Nothing's easy. Nothing's guaranteed. You have to work hard. You got to follow the model, pay attention, and really take care of your people because they take care of your customers. But
Right.
is one enough? I think so. If until you get it right, then if you want to go to 2 or 3, I mean, that's a pretty good stretch. But then 5 or more, you may as well go to 10 or 15 or 20 or 50. And then you see guys that have, huge groups, 100 more plus multiple states. But that's a whole different level. And there's structure for that, right? You have systems and people, and you can scale this business, though. That's the beauty of it is it's very scalable once you have it kind of under control, once you manage it.
So I'm going to ask some serious questions in a minute, but I've got to ask this. If I went to my barber now and said, I want a flat top with fenders, would they know what I'm talking about?
Probably not. I know what that is, actually. My dad used to call that a Hollywood.
Yeah, I used to get that as a teenager.
Yeah.
Flat top with fenders.
Flat top with fenders, flat, and then sides going back.
Yeah.
No, I'm familiar with that. I understand. Chances are, no, I don't know. People would know what a flat top is. That's that's out there. Fenders, that's, I don't know. They might figure it out. Maybe you'd be surprised. I think it depends on where they went to barber school or beauty school, or who they hung around with when they were young, maybe, because the hairdressers are wonderfully creative people. There is some great creativity out there, and it's fun to see. It's just a fun environment, frankly. That industry is, like any business, right? It's got its advantages and disadvantages, and it's a fun business.
Yeah. I guess. And that's the next question, really. How easy is it to get into it as a franchise?
The salon industry? Yeah, well, there are, I don't know how many these days. I think last time I heard anything, it was like 15% of the industry is a chain or a franchise or some kind of a system. Mm-hmm. So what's that? 85% of the industry is independent, independent operators. So there's a lot of room. I think the franchise, this pandemic, this lousy COVID, I think is going to hurt a lot of independents.
Yeah,
for sure. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that's changed in probably the last 10 years, for sure, the last 5 years for certain, is a new component called the salon suites model. And there are some franchise brands that are doing really well with that. And there's some great competition out there, but that is kind of a hybrid almost. It's a salon concept, but it's really a real estate play and kind of a, anyway, that's changed the model for the industry. It's not going the other way. That's not going away. That's had an impact. So how hard is it to get it? In one sense, it's real easy. All you need to do is get a barber license or a beauty license and a set of shears and a comb and, clippers. You can become a hairdresser and go to work for yourself out of your basement. Some people do that, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a real career builder, but whatever. If you want to own a salon, a lot of the bigger brands are, I don't want to say sold out, but they're pretty close to sold out because they've been around for a long time. And a lot of people got a lot of stores, and, Great Clips is out there, over 4,000 salons. It's a huge brand. Regis, their Supercuts brand is very big. They've got a few other brands over there. There are hundreds of units. Sport Clips is, I think, about 1,900. They're almost 2,000 Sport Clips, all in the U.S. and a few in Canada. But they're growing like crazy and doing a great job. So the competitors at that level it's hard to get in. Now, a lot of guys, once you're in, then they try to consolidate. They'll acquire. You might buy one. And I know Regis was re-franchising a lot of their corporate stores, which that's another conversation. But I've seen some opportunities there, I guess. It creates opportunity where people couldn't get into a brand. But, then what are you doing? You're trying to buy the cash flow, and it's hard to do that in this business. You really have to manage the business, not just buy it. And I think that, there's always room for another good competitor. It's like any industry. Another good one, sure, they can make it. Are they going to take share? Market share will probably come from the independents. as the industry continues to grow and consolidate, I would expect that franchise chain business to increase, and the independent mom and pops are probably going to continue to decrease. I think that trend has been going on for a long time, and it's probably got another, you know, I mean, it'll never be full conversion to full corporate. You know, this is America. There's a lot of creativity out there, you know, but I bet you could get close to 50-50 maybe over the next 30 years, you know, so there's plenty of room to grow, I guess is what I'm saying. I think there's opportunity, but nothing's easy, nothing's automatic. But I've read about a lot of newer brands in the last maybe 3 or 4 years that are kind of back to the original. The Barbers, my dad's original concept was this men's grooming, you know, kind of cool and laid back. And, you know, you'd go there and get a shave and a haircut and all the full service men's kind of thing. And there's more of that out there. And so that segment is going through a renaissance, which is kind of interesting. You know, there's opportunity all over the place. I guess you just got to look for it. I wouldn't know where to start if I was going to buy a salon franchise. I mean, other than Sport Clips, I'm part of that. You know, I've been involved with them as a board of directors member for 11 years, I think. So it's been a long time, and they're doing a great job. I really love that company. Proud of their success. You know, but it's a big industry, and there's lots of good brands out there. So.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't always, and you alluded to this a few minutes ago as well, you haven't remained in the hair business, right? You've done some other things.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so tell us a little bit about how you made the transition, why you made the transition into T-shirts and Postnet and some of the other things that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, when we, part of it was unexpected, I'll be honest. When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, right? I was out of college, working hard, family business, franchisor, and I was doing everything I could to learn that business and prove myself to advance as an executive inside our family business, right? It was a great opportunity, and I was doing a great job, and things changed. My dad had passed away in '94, and my mother took over, and she did a great job. She doubled the size of the company in the 90s. And I had an older brother who died in a car accident in 97. So it was just a few years after my dad. And anyway, my mom went through we all went through it, but it really upset the apple cart, if you will. And my mom wanted to retire. She wound up selling the whole company. So it was kind of an unexpected outcome. If my brother hadn't passed away, you know, that might not have happened. I think that's kind of what triggered it for her to. So anyway, we wound up selling the business, which was a fantastic transaction. I mean, it really was a nice outcome for the family, but it changed my career path, right? My ambition was derailed, I guess, in a sense, and, you know, whatever, how could I complain, right? It was a great outcome. So I went to work for Regis Corporation for 9 months, right? And I had incentive to do a good job there, and they were nice to me. They were good people. And but I looked around at Regis. It was a great big company, corporate, you know, publicly traded, and a lot of politics, and just not my style. You know, I didn't feel like an owner anymore, so it wasn't the same motivation, right? So I left, and I had thankfully had an incentive package, which was a wonderful part of the deal. And I thought, I'll never get this ever again. I had a non-compete, so I got paid to not work, right? Which to me, it was unbelievable, right? But it was, you know, you get those things in certain conditions, and I was lucky to have the opportunity, I guess. But because of that, I had to stay out of the hair business, and I had to stay out of other segments of the salon industry for, I think it was 3 or 4 years or some period of time. But I thought, well, what do I know, right? I know retail, I know strip center locations, I know shopping center locations, I know service-based concept, B2C, right? Business to consumer, hair salons is all consumer. I had done a lot of work in real estate and commercial property, and you know, leasing and owning and managing commercial property that our family owned. And so I understood a few things, and I'd done a lot of other things with a peer group I was part of called Inner Circle, which gave me exposure to a lot of other businesses, and it was really kind of fun. So I took some time off, and I decided, well, what can I do? What am I allowed to do? And then what do I really want to do? And what I landed on was this brand PostNet. And PostNet at the time was, it was still run by the founders, the original founders, and great young guys, nice guys, just a little bit older than me, but pretty much the same age. So, and I'd known them through the IFA. I'd known them pretty well from being at IFA for years and years. And they're nice guys, hard workers, and they had a nice, good brand, and they seemed like they were on a roll. And I think they kind of shanghaied me at one of the IFA dinners. You know, they put me at a table full of their people, and it didn't take me long to figure out I was getting set up here, you know, because they started working on me, and then like, well, you know, honestly, I didn't want to just own a franchise. I didn't want to be a unit level franchisee anymore. You know, it's like, I want something a little bigger than that. And they said, well, we've got this area developer model. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I know what those are. I said, how does yours work? You know, how do you do it? And so they explained it to me, and it was pretty attractive, you know, and they're, like I said, I know these guys, I kind of like them. And it was retail. It was the same kind of real estate, the business to consumer, mostly in the beginning, especially, you know, and it was a clean environment. You know, I could get my head around it. And anyway, it took a few months of research and diligence, but I bought 2 states as a double regional developer for Minnesota and Wisconsin. So I bought a big opportunity. That was the biggest deal they'd ever made domestically, right? But I knew what I was doing, and I knew what I wanted to do. And so they appointed me to their advisory council right away, immediately. And it ruffled some feathers with the other franchisees, like, who is this guy? You know, you drop him in here and all of a sudden he's on the FAC. And I'm like, well, you know, let me explain my background. And anyway, I went on to have a great time at PostNet. Great people, great company. I had good units. I opened and worked really hard. I had great people on my stores. I had some great franchisees that I recruited into my territory. I mean, it was a good run. We had a lot of fun doing it. Spent a lot of money, made a lot of money. You know, I had pretty much a good run. And that was fun, retail, you know. And then along the way, once I had that pretty well, I don't want to say figured out, but once I was seeing success with that, I went on to start doing some consulting with other franchise. I had such a network in franchising, because really from growing up at IFA and running around with my mom and dad at the board meetings and stuff and the dinners, you know, I couldn't go to the meetings, of course. I was the teenage son, but I'd go with my mother. After my dad passed away, I'd go with my mom to the IFA meetings, and I'd just hang out with her. Everybody knew I was her son. I mean, you know, and it was fine because we worked together. I mean, she was running the business and I was doing my part. So it was a lot of fun. So anyway, I leveraged my network, you know, and I've always been able to do that and enjoy doing that. You know, it's fun to have a network that you can really use to help people with the business. So I started doing a little consulting and board work with some other brands, a restaurant brand, a spa equipment company. A friend of mine had a distributorship that was deemed not competitive because Regis wasn't selling spa equipment, you know, and I'm trying to think, boy, I don't know. I probably did half a dozen brands along the time I was doing PostNet at the same time. Kind of, I call it freestyle consulting, right? You're just doing it. And then when the recession came and everything kind of stopped, you know, that was a big deal. And the retail market froze up pretty tight, and the credit markets froze up. So I couldn't finance any franchises. If you remember those days, right?
Oh, yeah.
2008 and 9, when home equity and IRAs was a great resource for people to fund a franchise acquisition or development program, but all that was stuck. So I couldn't, I could sell them, but nobody could build and open. So it got kind of, you know, and I went back to PostNet actually and said, look, fellas, well, we watched here in Minneapolis, you know, like a lot of markets, right? The commercial real estate market really took a beating. I mean, the vacancies went up and things went upside down. So we had been in the commercial real estate business back in the 80s and 90s, and I ran that family business. So when the recession hit in late 2009, really, we decided to buy some more commercial property here in Minneapolis because kind of everything was on sale. So our family, I've got 3 sisters, and my mother's still wonderfully, she's healthy. And anyway, we organized some family investment into some commercial property. So I got the opportunity to do that. And so I did that. And then all of a sudden, relatively speaking, the PostNet business shrunk, right? Because I couldn't open stores because the financing was stuck. And I had one of my fantastic managers had moved on, and after I think a 5-year run of doing some great work, so I kind of lost one of my operational key people, and all this was happening at the same time. So I went back to PostNet corporate. Actually, I think it was at an IFA conference. We went out for breakfast, and I said, "Look, guys, I think I need to shift gears. I think I got to do something different. I could pretend that I'm going to stick with this and build stores and sell franchises, or I could just be honest with you and say, I think I'm ready for shifting." And they're like, "Well, what do you got left on your contract?" I mean, it was a very easy, pleasant conversation because we were so close. I mean, I had a really great relationship with my franchisor, and still do. I mean, they're still friends. We're both been out of the business for a long time, but so we negotiated a nice deal, and I basically stepped out of my area developer role. And I had 1 store to sell, which was easy to do. And then they hired me. Actually, I went to work for the franchisor, like at the same time. And I went on as what was called a strategic advisor. We agreed that was the most vague title we could come up with. That sounded important, but really no authority, because I'm not a director. I'm not a C-suite, anything. It was built as a temporary role to help them with some structural opportunities to fix some things internally in terms of accountability and planning, and a little more structure. And then dealing with some of the struggling as the recession was going. There were owners in the system who were just hanging on, and they really needed some special attention. So I could go in as a troubleshooter with those owners because I had been one, right? So I was kind of a secret weapon. That's what I called myself. But so I worked in that role part-time from home here in Minnesota for 2 years, and had a lot of fun making an impact on that brand from the inside, right? Not being an owner anymore and a franchisee, but leveraging all that experience and those relationships, because everybody knew me, everybody trusted me. I'd won the franchisee of the year a couple of times. I mean, it was fantastic environment and really a good brand. So I was glad to stay involved, but in a different capacity. And that was pretty cool to do that. Then after that, let's see, I think that ended in 2013. So a couple of years later. Then the real estate was really turned out to be a pretty good deal because the market came back, and then I didn't want to go back into operating any, I didn't have any employees. I didn't really want any employees, to be honest. And my kids are starting to get older. I don't want to be around my kids while I have the chance, hopefully, to have some fun. I've got 2 girls, 2 teenagers right now. And so I've been working from home forever. And then I really guess I got more purposeful about being a speaker. I worked with a woman, you might know her, Katrina Mitchell, out in Denver. She's a speaker's agent, runs a bureau agency sort of thing. And I met her at a conference. We'd known each other. And she was pretty straight up with me. She says, how many retired executives who think they want to be a speaker come to, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just book me and I'll get up and speak." And she says, no, you have to have a program. You have to have presence. You have to build your materials. You're not just going to do this. You have to get organized. So she gave me some ideas and motivation, and I did it. She said, "You actually did the work." So I created a program. I got the coaching. I put myself together as a speaker and started doing that, and really had a lot of fun with it. I could show up at a brand and ask a lot of questions on the front end and build my material to kind of suit them, right? I could deliver that message that needed to be delivered and do it in a way that was effective. And so I did a fair amount of speaking and consulting, and that would turn into opportunities if I see them, and I could say, geez, yeah, I bet I could help you with, you got this and this and this, and now maybe this and that and the other thing, and try to help. And then lately, I guess for the last 5 years, I've been doing board of advisors, right? Which is not a board of directors. I love serving on the board of directors, and I do that too, but that's formal. There's fiduciary, there's voting, there's structure and legal issues around a board of directors. A board of advisors is not that. It's informal. It's there's not really any liability. You don't need insurance and things. You know, it's much simpler, much more flexible. I say a board of advisors, using that, I help turn a founder into a CEO, right? I can create structure and accountability inside the organization for the benefit of the owner, and then leave, right? I can put that together and set the board up and go to the first meeting and dial it all up and then say, okay, good luck, you know, and I don't have to serve on the board.
I hate to interrupt. We got to go to a commercial right now.
Oh yeah, by all means.
The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
And on a personal note from Elizabeth, read the Rogue Mail column in this month's episode. Not the Lone Mail, the Rogue Mail, which means now we know what time it really is, don't we? It's time to take everyone down the rabbit hole. Ooh, yeah.
Be ready, Johnny.
Oh boy, that's a complicated image right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to put on your seatbelt.
Okay.
So now we're to Fred's favorite part of the show, which is the down the rabbit hole question. So today we're going to ask about, yes, the topic we haven't talked about in a long time, the zombie apocalypse.
Oh no.
What types? Given that zombies can be killed by sharp, blunt objects, including knives, machetes, and things like that, to the head, how will scissors, exactly? How will future franchisees during the zombie apocalypse ensure that zombies do not take them for a threat when they come, which is my fear, when somebody trying to cut their hair comes at them with a sharp object?
For the zombies to get haircuts?
Exactly. Zombies need haircuts.
Okay. Well, you know, Fred, I don't know what to say, man. I think someone better be careful. If you nick a zombie, well, they can't bleed to death because they're already dead, right?
That's a plus.
Just bite you.
And I think the only way you can kill a zombie is to like disintegrate their brains or something, right? You have to really kill them good, right? I mean, you know, if you just shoot them in the arms or legs or whatever, they keep coming, right? So I don't know, man. I don't even want to think about it. I think, yeah, if you're a hairdresser and you've got shears, you know, they're a weapon for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So it'd probably be a pretty safe position to be in, actually. And then, you know, those clippers and hair dryers, and they got a cord, right? You could wrap the cord around that thing and maybe tie them down to the chair or something. You know, I don't know.
This question always brings out the really dark side in people, right? Well, there's a cord we can choke them. There's scissors we can stab them, and those razors we have. Wow.
Oh yeah, straight edge razor can do some real damage. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, they aren't as popular anymore. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Could you melt them with a hair dryer? Would that do anything to a zombie?
Oh, it might kill, but then again, you're killing your customers.
Oh, yeah, right. Well,
And the one thing I'll tell you, other than the cigarette industry, no industry ever lived a long time by killing their customers. Ray, your famous final question on that note.
So I know there's a lot of people who are listening. You're thinking, "Wow, I need some help, some advice." If someone wanted to call you, and as a speaker or just some advice, what would be the best way they can get a hold of you?
sure. Thanks for asking, Ray. The best way to find me is probably my website, johnnyfranchise.com. There's all kinds of stuff there. I've got a blog I've been writing for 5 years. All kinds of stuff you can look at, and videos if you're interested. There's some freebie giveaway stuff there. I have a newsletter you can sign up and all that. And then there's a contact button or a form or whatever. You can reach me there. There's a scheduled link, I think, even if you really want to get aggressive and jump into my calendar, it'll allow that, which is really kind of fun sometimes. You'd be surprised. When people, but I have some rules, right? So it won't schedule things that aren't comfortable for me. So it's limited availability that way. But I would say send an email, drop through the website, phone number. I'm not hard to find. I'm on all the social medias all over the place. And I love talking to people about franchise. Really, I just like to help where I can and otherwise get out of the way. And I work alone. I don't have an office full of people to pay for. I don't need another client to make my mortgage or anything. I'm comfortable. I'm lucky. I want to help where I can. I do plenty of volunteer work, so I'm really not interested in that. But I like helping my clients and really adding value to what they're doing. I say I'm more of an advisor than a consultant because I don't really want to do the work. I want to help other people do their work. So I've been called a coach, right? I don't know. I'm not a certified anything, but I guess that's the kind of work I do. So
you teach them how to fish.
Yeah, definitely, and show them what lures to use and how to do it. I want them to be successful for a long time, and I want them to have fun doing it. I'm all about taking care of people and kind of mutual benefit. A franchise model is when everybody does their part. Franchising works fantastically well, and that's really what I'm trying to help make that a reality.
Yeah. It's interesting. Kristin and I were talking the other day of the franchise owners that we knew who didn't work out. Things didn't work out for them. They were always the ones that say, "Oh, the franchise doesn't know what they're talking about. I'm going to do it my way." And they end up,
Yeah, it's unfortunately common that people get in and they get sideways with the brand, and it's like, well, okay, why did you get here? How did you get here? And a lot of times I'll help people through those kind of situations. I can ask questions in about 10 minutes. I can figure out what's really going on and give them a handful of ideas to think about. But really, I like seeing people succeed where they can and otherwise move on. Nobody wants to fight about stuff. It's not worth it. It's I'd rather see you get out of it, and if it doesn't work for whatever reason, you're not going to fit that brand or that model, then sell it to somebody else and get on to your next one, because there's so much opportunity. You just got to find one that you really can do and execute and have passion. If you really like the business and you really like the people, it's a lot easier to be successful. If you don't have those fundamental kind of values in alignment, I wouldn't do it. I'd do something else.
Yeah.
And on that note, folks, we'll be back next week. Want to thank our guest, John Francis, as well as my co-host, Ray and Kristin, for making another interesting and yet weird show. We'll be back. Next week is Thanksgiving. We will be on, however, 2 hours later, so I don't get killed by my family for missing dinner again. So 4 o'clock next week, 4 p.m. Pacific. Be back.
Thank you, Johnny Franchise. You've been an excellent guest, and we really appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Ray.
Pillars of franchising. Pillars of franchising.